Hey everyone, I've got what I hope will be a relatively quick and painless video here, but I think it should give you something actionable that you can use almost immediately in a variety of ways. So I've got a question here from Yvonne, and Yvonne is one of my Monkeypod OG members, and she asked this question back on December 27th. It says, hey, thanks for the warm welcome and Christmas wishes. I'm very new to the group and to Infusionsoft, and so I'm still learning the ropes. Does anyone know if there is a way I can map postcodes or zip codes using a GPS? I just added the postcode to my web form for leads, which determines their location, and what she really wants is to see them, instead of in a spreadsheet, visually, kind of on a map so that she can determine where potential hotspots are for possible expansion. So I answered the question for her and gave her some tips, and I said, hey, when I get back to San Diego, let me sit down and record a video for you because I think there's a lot of application for something like this, which is kind of what brings us to today. You see, there's lots of application for where a heat map might be useful. Yvonne's business is Women's Fitness Adventures, and it's just womensfitnessadventures.com, and they're all about combining fitness and travel and adventure into fun activities designed especially for women. So, getting outdoors, hiking, connecting, networking, and it's all about doing this strategically based on where their users are. So as their website captures leads, you can see that they're capturing postcode. And what Yvonne wants to do is take that information and then turn it into a map so that she can see where these different people are located and where it makes the most sense for a potential expansion. But you could use the tactic I'm going to demonstrate to see where your customers are coming from as well. And if there's a particular pattern or a trend, a lot of customers are showing up in a specific area, well, that might make sense for you to host an event in that area, right? So there's really a number of applications for how you might use heat mapping, but the concept is going to be really, really basic. So we start with Google Maps, and you can get there by just opening up google.com, right? And then right up here, you'll have more, and you've got the option for maps. Now, what most people do is just type in an address, and that's how Google Maps is primarily used. But if you click on this menu option over here, you also have a section called My Maps, which some people have never explored. If you click on My Maps, I think I've got one or two in there. You can see I've got a couple that I've been playing with. But if we just click on either See All Your Maps or Create a Map, you can generate a brand new map. So what it's going to ask you to do is start plotting your different points, right? So let's give this one a name, and I'll just call this Heat Map Demo, and I'll say this is a demo for creating a heat map. Heat map. There we go. Save. And you can see immediately I have an untitled layer, and then it gives me the option to import, right? So let's go ahead and select the untitled layer, and we'll call this our 2015 customers. Okay, so this is a list of all of my customers from 2015. Now, to get this information, especially if you're using Infusionsoft, all you have to do is do a search or run a report for that group of people, and then export those results, including the street address, the city, the state, the zip code, and the country, or whatever criteria you want to map out. And then click on Import. And you can drag it right here, or I happen to know it's saved under the term Literary Heroes. So I'll go Literary Heroes and click OK. And then it's going to take just a quick second and upload it. Now, the first dialog window here is asking, hey, where do you want to position your place marks? So I'm going to use address, address to, city, state, zip, and country. Those are the fields in my spreadsheet. So if I click over here, you can see it's got first, last, email, company, address, address to, city, state, zip, country, and phone. So those align with what's available here. Well, first name, last name, email, company, those don't carry any geographical information. So I don't need to use those when determining the address that I'm going to be mapping. Now, if I click continue, the next one is, hey, what are you going to use to title your markers? And you could only use one. So first name or company would probably make the most sense. You could do email address. If you have some other criteria, depending on what you've exported, you could use the order number or something like that. But let's just stick with first name for now. And then when I click finish, you'll see it loads, and it's going to populate the entire map with the different entries from that spreadsheet. So you can see I've got a few here in Europe, I've got a few in the United States, and then I've got a handful down in Australia. And if we zoom in, let's take Australia for example. If we zoom in down here, you can see that there's actually a couple in Melbourne as well as a couple in Sydney. So when we're really zoomed out, you might not be able to differentiate the ones that are super close together. But when you're viewing it at a high level, especially if you get into the point where there are hundreds or even dozens of entries, you'll see where the patterns and the trends are going. Now, there's a few options once you've added a layer. You can say you want to rename it, delete it, or adjust the table data. You also have the option then of affecting the style. So grouping the places in a certain order or sequence or by a particular piece of criteria, and then recoloring them if you're adding multiple layers. So let's say we make these ones purple, right? Now, we know that that's our 2015 customers. If I wanted to go back and run another report, I could do a search for 2014 or 2013 and then upload those in the same way. And if I use different color indicators, I can easily see, hey, wow, in 2015 we had a lot more expansion into Europe, right? We didn't have any customers there in 2013 and we only had one in 2014. So what did we change that started pushing people that way? And maybe it was our advertising. Maybe it was that we spoke at a conference with more international exposure, right? There could be any number of conclusions to draw from this information. But just having a heat map available to you makes those types of analyses available. Let's go ahead and add one more layer here. And we'll do... this will be our 2015 event location. So this will be a list of where we did events in 2015. So I'll go ahead and click save on that, and then we can import, and this one should just be called university locations. And this is another spreadsheet I've got here with just a list of the locations that we ran in Fusionsoft University. So again, I'm going to select where I want the place markers to go using the city, state, and country. And if we look at this spreadsheet, it's actually right here, you'll see I only have event, city, state, and country. So that's all the information I have available to work with here. So if we go back to that map, I'm using city, state, and country. And if we click continue, the event name is, of course, what we want to use for our markers. So let's click finish. And it should populate those, again, using the default red, and it does. And I can see that, wow, we did a lot of events. In fact, we did some where I don't have any customers, right? So maybe I need to look more closely at Michigan, where I have a handful of customers living, but I haven't done an event, although Chicago's close proximity. Or maybe I need to do an event in general in the UK or in Europe in general, because I have a few customers over there, but I don't have any events that I've done over there. So what information or what conclusions you draw from your heat maps is totally up to you. But what you should know is that in addition to creating these here, once you've generated the map, you have the option to save it back to your drive. In fact, it does that automatically. And then, of course, share it with additional users. So if you've got reports in Infusionsoft that you're running on a regular basis, such as your monthly sales totals, well, what you can do is then click into, let's look at last year's sales. This is a demo app, but I think I've got a few pieces of information in here. So you can see we got 2 orders last year, and let's click on that. So I could take the month of November, for example, and update or export rather the information from here and then update it onto this map. And then I could do the same thing for December and then January and whichever months thereafter. So if you're running reports on a regular basis and you're using time-based intervals, either a month or a year or a quarter, well, maybe starting a sales heat map where you update it once a month or once a quarter or even once a year to see the differences or which direction things are trending could be really insightful. Now, I'll be the first to say that I'm not a Google Maps expert. I'm certainly not claiming that I have everything figured out here, but when this was first shown and explained to me, I immediately recognized the potential for something like this. Just seeing year after year or month after month the way that this map starts to take shape can be really insightful and really could be quite powerful as well when it comes to making marketing decisions or deciding where and how to allocate your resources. So hopefully having this information, or at least knowing that this tool is there, better sets you up for success as well. Now, before we wrap up, I want to point out a couple of other tools here, right? You can select items on the map using this. You can add additional markers. So if there's something in, Brazil that wasn't on your spreadsheet that you need to add, you can populate the map manually by dropping those pins. You can also draw a line between a couple of different points or add directions, measure the distances or areas, things like that. There's an undo and a redo. So as you're editing or modifying your map, if you need to undo something, you can easily make that change. And you may not have noticed, but as I added my layers, right, I imported my spreadsheet. I also noticed that there was the opportunity to draw in a file from Google Drive, which kind of gives me an idea. It gets a little bit complicated, but you could conceivably post from an Infusionsoft sequence to a Google form and use that Google form to populate a Google Sheet, and then use the Google Drive feature here to draw the data from that Google Sheet into a map. So rather than uploading spreadsheets on a regular basis, conceivably you could just set it up so that when a customer purchases, it posts their data to a Google form, which populates a Google Sheet, which populates your Google Map. So I don't know if that triggers anything for you, but because of the way that those things all play together, I really think that this Google Maps feature opens up a lot of possibility for new ways to view the data that your business is already collecting. So hopefully this gives you some ideas that you can run with, and if you have questions about it, please post them below and I'll do my best to help out. Cheers!